guys, this is unique for me. I don't actually have any role other than ceremonial today, which is awesome. It shows a lot about how far Atlassian's come, that founders are absolutely not needed to actually give presentations or anything else. I mean, I just wanted to really thank you guys all for coming. It was 2003, 2004, I think, when we had maybe 6 or 7 engineers and we built the first version of what's become the plugin system now. We needed extensibility for ourselves to ship features in a more flexible way. And I certainly don't think we could have zoomed forward 10 years to see what that plugin system would have become in terms of the extensibility of the products. It's kind of awesome for me to sit in the back and watch people get up and demo Stash and how extensible it is nowadays and talk about all the different products. I know Sherif, I run the collaboration family for those that don't know, so you'll hear me say Confluence a lot. Sherif's going to get up in a second to tell you about the new extensibility features in Confluence, but from the product's extensibility point of view, we've come an awful long way, I guess, in 10 years in terms of that extensibility through plugins 2 and all the OSGI and OBRs and everything that you can do if you're doing that sort of thing, all the way through to obviously the future being around Connect, more flexible SaaS-based integration. That's been an awesome journey to watch, and thank you guys all for participating. That extensibility, which we're famous for, wouldn't be anything without people actually using that extensibility. So, you know, the second thing for me to say thank you for is for all you guys for coming. It's like this awesome family. I think we have 4 people who've been 5 years, so to every single Atlas camp, is that right? How many people are going to admit to having been to every single Atlas camp? 1. Roberto, I know, is 1. I know, Jonathan, you don't really count. So I think there's 4 people now who've been to all 5 Atlas camps. And, you know, in 2008, when we ran the first one, it was 15 of us up in Napa, just kind of nerding out. We wrote code and drank beer, and we didn't know if anyone would turn up, to be honest, when we actually put it on. And now having, you know, 200 folks show up in Amsterdam, people running commercial businesses, people, you know, just interested in building better extensions for their products, for their customers, integrations with their services. It's kind of an awesome community that we built. So thank you guys all for being a part of that community. Had a great time last night drinking beer with a whole lot of you. And I think we've done something right in the quality of the community that we've built. Everybody seemed interested, intrigued, playing with new things, and just generally, you know, good guys. So if you haven't met a lot of people, switch tables, move around, try to meet as many people. That's kind of the point of Atlas Camp. So for me, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for making our lives awesome and inspiring us all as Atlassians to make better tools. I've got a whole metric ton of ideas from you guys over the last 24 hours. Please come see me if you think we can improve anything at all about the products or the business or the ecosystem in general. So thank you very much for coming. Other than that, I'll get Sherif up to tell you about my favorite product, Confluence. Not that I'm allowed to have favorites.
Kind of glad Scott isn't here, otherwise he'd be in a lot of trouble, Mike. How you guys doing, all right? Cool. Who enjoyed the party last night, yeah? It's pretty good? Awesome. Probably a huge thank you we should probably say to Rudy and Daphne for organizing the party. It was a sensational view. It was awesome. And I like it how the weather just cleared up for us perfectly to get that awesome view of Amsterdam. It was beautiful. So we're here today to talk about the Confluence State of the Union. And for those of you who haven't met or who don't know me, my name is Sherif Mansell, and I'm a product manager on the Confluence team. I'm also known as the poor guy that gets the first talk the day after the Atlas Camp party, 3 years in a row. So I'm not bitter about that at all. Actually, I pinged Rich Manneling, who helped also organize this conference, who can't be with us here this morning. I pinged him this morning. I said, hey, I'm putting a slide about how bitter I am about this, getting the first talk slot. And he said, not a problem at all, Sherif. You know what we'll do? We'll give you the last slot of the conference next year. So I'll keep my mouth shut. So today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Confluence 5.0, the last major release that we did just before the current release, which is Confluence 5.1. I'll give you a sneak peek into that. I'm going to run through it pretty quickly. And then I'll spend a lot of the time talking about, in terms of the State of the Union from an ecosystem perspective, the biggest improvements we've made there, and in particular around page blueprints. I'll give you the what and the why of page blueprints, and then we'll spend a really short time giving you a sneak peek beyond Confluence 5.1. What are the next upcoming releases from a plugin developer perspective? What you guys may be interested in checking out. So releases, Confluence 5.0 was our really big major release, and you heard about the Atlassian design guidelines from Jürgen and Jean-Michel yesterday. This was the first product at Atlassian to deploy the new Atlassian design guidelines. And we had 3 focus areas with the 5.0 release. We wanted to completely redesign all the major screens inside Confluence. We wanted to focus heavily on simplifying the user experience and also on how you create content as well as navigate around content. So I'm going to dive into this really quickly. I'm going to fly through these slides because I think a lot of you can check out the release notes and dive into a bit more detail. But this is fairly important for us to set the stage for Blueprints, because Blueprints has built a lot on top of some of the features that we shipped in Confluence 5. So very quickly, the new design. We've gone through all the major screens inside Confluence and given them a visual refresh with the Atlassian design guidelines. Everything from view page to the dashboard to the people and space directory as well. For the simplified user experience, we've been focusing a lot on the information architecture of the product. And we've done a few things here to change. Firstly, you guys will notice this common header, both available in Jira and Confluence. Again, part of the Atlassian design guidelines to make it much more intuitive to get around the product. We have this thing called the app navigator or the app switcher up the top left-hand corner. And it displays links from any linked applications that you have inside Confluence. So if you're a plugin developer, this has an API, so you may want to add your own links here as well. Or if you're running Confluence as an intranet, it's a great tool to link to internal systems, such as your HR or your annual leave system, and things like that. Across the top, we've also got the global navigation items. These are top-level objects that sit in the system. So we can have spaces and people as top-level objects. And this is a new web item available to you guys as plugin developers as well. You can put your top-level objects there. So we've got an example of team calendars, calendar add-on for Confluence. And calendars can sit outside spaces, and that's why they're up there as well. We've got a global create button, and I'll talk about that shortly. And all your personal settings and personal preferences are available under your username menu. So again, you'll see this is also a consistent experience with Jira and across all our tools. In terms of information architecture, the other thing we've done is also introduce this space sidebar to the default theme for Confluence. The sidebar here has a couple of things. The main thing I want to call out here is this concept of space shortcuts. These are kind of like the most important links in this space available for your team or project. For example, if you're a software team, you may want to link to your team's roadmap, your requirements documents, or your Jira projects, or where you keep your source code in Stash or Bitbucket. The other things we've got there is your space administration stuff, as well as the context navigation to kind of let you know where you are and where the pages, what kind of pages are related to this page below it. For power users, you can also collapse the sidebar, and all the features are still available there, so you can navigate around anywhere you want. So not only have we done that for the sidebar, but also the create experience is far more intuitive. So some of you may remember, this is probably a bit of a change for you guys as plugin developers. We used to have the add menu on the view page on the top right-hand corner, and that was only available on view pages. So now we have this global create button that is available everywhere inside the application. So one click to create content from anywhere where you are. Now this opens up a dialog and it shows you what types of content that you can create. You select your space, it defaults to the current space. If you're in another space, it's smart enough to know, hey, you create content mostly in this space, so we'll suggest it, or if you're outside a space screen. You select your space, and then the other thing we've made fairly obvious, which is really important for Blueprints, is we show you the type of content that you can create. This was in Confluence 5.0, and this was for user-created templates, as well as site-wide templates. So this is a fairly big change in terms of lifting templates inside the product UI and making it more of a first-class concept for everyone. So you go create your content, and the last thing we've done here is we've given the editor also a visual refresh with the Atlassian design guidelines. So that's 5.0. I'll let you go dive in. There's a whole lot of other features that were available in that release. These are just some of the highlights that I thought you might be interested in from a plugin developer perspective. But a lot of the stuff we did in 5.0 was a lead up to Confluence Blueprints, which was on the next release of Confluence. And I want to spend a bit of time talking to you guys about Blueprints. I'll share with you guys a little bit of story about why we went upon this journey. And then I'll spend most of the time talking about what. What are the different possibilities of add-ons that you guys can build with Confluence Blueprints. So a little story. This is me and my team in my old job. I used to work for a telco in Sydney, and some of you may know I used to be an Atlassian customer. kind of fell in love with Confluence. Some guy left the company and handed it over to me, and I was like, what is this thing? And I played with it a lot and kind of played with it and really liked it. And so I used to run this workshop called Wiki Wednesdays. And so people would bring their lunch inside a room, and we would sit there and we'd chat about how you use Confluence, what are the different types of pages that you create. And I was trying to get more and more people to use Confluence, because I was really passionate about how it changed the way you work and created an open company, and people could be more productive and collaborative. But I ran into a lot of hurdles trying to explain to people the different types of things you could do inside Confluence. Fast forward a few years later, I'm a Confluence product manager, and I have the privilege of talking to a lot of customers. You know, this challenge that I had as a customer, many customers have today. We have Confluence champions across many organizations that spend a lot of time showing people what they can do inside Confluence. And the conversation kind of goes something like this. You have this power user that comes in and goes, hey, did you know you can use Confluence for requirements, all these awesome things, business plans, meeting notes, blah, blah, blah. You can do everything with it. And the novice user kind of looks at you with a blank face and says, are you using the same tool that I'm using? That I hit create and I've got this blank page. How do I turn that into what you're telling me? And the response is typically something like, oh, well, that's fairly easy. All you got to do is connect this thing and put these things together and use these macros, use tables mentions and blah, 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 and ta-da, there you go. And kind of like, you know, they look at you a bit funny, and they kind of over time, but eventually work it. They kind of reverse engineer the pages that you create, and they go, I can see how you can use Confluence for requirements or meetings or whatever it is. And this is really the problem we've been trying to solve. And Jean-Michel told you this yesterday. We refer to this as the blank page problem internally. And so we wanted to make it easy for people to get over this blank page hurdle. So what have we done to solve this problem? To give you a quick overview by example, I'm going to walk you through the meeting notes blueprint, which is kind of like the 101 blueprint that we shipped in Confluence 5.1 that kind of shows you a few things with blueprints. So let's start this off. I hit create, and I'm presented with all the different types of things that I can create. You'll see here we've got a meeting notes example, and I can select the meeting notes blueprint and hit next. We've shown people that they can create meetings in Confluence, which is already a hurdle that they have. And now we're given this welcome mat or a how-to dialogue that kind of explains, hey, these are the different types of things you can do in meetings. You have text here, you could have a video, you could do a whole bunch of different stuff, but we explain to them how they can go about using the meeting notes blueprint. Now we've done a few things here. We've landed them inside the editor. We have a title that's automatically populated for them. We have the date of today, because assuming they're probably going to take meeting notes right now. I'm the current attendee, so it's put my name in there, which is pretty cool, so I don't have to think about that. And we've got this gray italicized text here up the top. This is called instructional text. And you as a plugin developer have access to put instructional text inside your blueprints. And when you type on instructional text, the whole block of text disappears. When you save your page, and if the user hasn't removed the instructional text blocks, they don't appear, so they don't pollute the page. So it kind of simplifies, you know, you can kind of show users how they can create content without polluting the view page. So I go ahead and I fill out the rest of my meeting notes. We're using tables, inline tasks here, and the user saves the page, and we've shown them how they can use Confluence to create meeting notes. We've given them some guidance with the use of the how-to dialogue, some instructional text, and some placeholder content in there so they can quickly get started. Now on the left of the sidebar that I talked to you about that we shipped in 5.0, we've got this shortcut to all meeting notes available in this space. So I click that, and we only have one meeting note in this space, because I just created a space to give you guys a demo. But it shows you the space, the meeting note's name, who created it, and when the date was, and I can create more meeting notes there. And over quite some time, you'll get this long list of meeting notes, and here's an example of one of our internal spaces. So we refer to this as the index page. And I think some customers and experts also refer to this kind of pattern as a dashboard page. It shows you all other meeting notes, all other pages of a specific type in a space. So we kind of help the user structure the content that they just created. So what have we done here? I guess the first thing we did is we showed users what. We answered the what question. What can I do in Confluence? And this was primarily done through a create dialog web item. Really simple, and you'll learn how to do that shortly. The next thing we did is we guided the user throughout the content creation process. This was primarily through kind of like a how-to dialogue, the use of templates, instructional texts, and a whole bunch of different objects on the Confluence page. And the last thing we did was we helped them structure and organize their content through the introduction of a meeting notes index page. This was pinned to the sidebar that they could access all the time, and they could add another meeting from that meeting notes index page. These three things here were our goals with Blueprints. We wanted to show users what they can create, we wanted to help them create it, and we want to guide them and structure it for them. And so when you're thinking about making Blueprints, you should be thinking about these three things. Have I answered the what? Have I helped them create it? And have I created some structure for them so they can go access this content again? So some of you super advanced smart people are probably looking at this and going, ha, Sherif, you just come up with a really fancy name for just improved templates. Isn't this just templates on steroids? Well, it's actually, I want to kind of dispel this myth, right? Because we actually couldn't have called Blueprints improved templates, because a template is one of many components that could make a blueprint. In fact, you could have a blueprint that could have 3 or 4 templates. You could have a blueprint that has no templates. And so to show you what I mean by this, I want to walk you through some blueprints patterns. I want to show you the different types of blueprints that you can create in Confluence, some with templates, some without, but show you the different pillars of the different things you can do with Confluence blueprints. So I'm going to be showing you the what and giving you kind of a big picture of the different things you can do. And David Taylor, the Blueprints feature lead, is coming up after me, and he's going to talk about the how, and he's going to show you practically how you can go about doing this using the plugin SDK. So let's dive into what here. And to kick us off, I want to kind of group the patterns that we look at into 3 categories. So the first category is the idea of how you can guide your user for input and how you take them through the initial process. The second area for kind of innovation or patterns is how you control the flow of your blueprint. Where do you take the user when they finish creating their content? And the last area of focus is how you visually represent and organize and structure content for that user. So we've got the input, the flow, and how you structure and organize the content. So let's take a look at the meeting notes blueprint, how it kind of fits into this. So the first thing we did with the input is we kind of gave them an instructional dialogue. We said, hey, these are the different types of things you can do with meeting notes. We also used a template and instructional text, but the big thing here that we had was fairly unique. We had this welcome mat kind of experience that explained what you can do. You can put text or a video there or whatever you like. In terms of flow, with the meeting notes blueprint, we landed them inside the edit page because we knew this blueprint was content-centric. The one thing they wanted to do was to take meeting notes. So let's take them to the editor as soon as they create their meeting notes. And what do we do to structure content? Well, we had a basic content by label-like report. This is called the content report macro that displayed all the meetings in this space for a particular label. In this case, it was the meeting notes label. Now, the content report macro is available to you as a plugin developer to use in all your blueprints. In fact, if you use the SDK plugin module generator, which Dave will talk about shortly, we kind of bootstrap that for you, so you get that for free, or you can tweak it and do a whole bunch of different things there. So that's the meeting notes blueprint, the 101 kind of blueprint. What are some other things we can do to innovate in each of these 3 pillars? So let me take you through the file list blueprint as another example. So we want to show people that they can use Confluence to create and share files. So create, I can create file lists. Great, I get it. Next. And then again, we show people, oh, okay, give me some more information about your file list. We're taking them through a wizard-like experience. We capture some inputs, which will be the page title, a description. Heck, we can even bootstrap some of the things you typically do. So we know a lot of people that create file lists in Confluence always want to restrict them. So we come and give them restrictions dialog. We have the little column on the right to explain a bit more. Create, and in this case, you'll notice I've landed in the view page. So this blueprint is primarily driven by a macro, and this macro lets me drag and drop files onto the page so I can share files. So this is the attachments macro that I'm sure some of you are aware of. And I can interact with this blueprint without necessarily having to edit the page. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, we're not going to get it 100% right. So the user can hit edit, and they can put a whole bunch of text there. They can explain what this file list is for. They can link to other file lists. They can do a whole bunch of different things. But in this case, I'm interacting with the whole blueprint from view page. I'm applying labels. I can rename. I can view different versions. A whole bunch of different things that I can do there. So we've thought about the blueprint from view page. Similar to the meeting notes, we have a shortcut on the left. Go access previous file lists. And I can see the previous file lists in this space. And I can create more lists of files. So what have we seen here in comparison to the meeting notes blueprint? Well, in terms of guiding the user, we had a bit of a wizard pattern. We had a single-step wizard, a really basic wizard that captured some inputs. It also applied restrictions to the page automatically. You could have a single-step wizard. You could have a multi-step wizard. You could have a multi-step conditional wizard if you wanted. Depending on what you enter on the first step of the wizard, you can take them to a different step of the wizard a bit later. So we're kind of innovating a bit here, and we can guide the user a bit quicker in them being able to create content. In terms of the flow, instead of landing them inside the editor, this blueprint's fairly interactive, and you can interact with it from view page. So we thought about our macro that was bundled in our blueprint on how the user could interact with that from view page. So in this case, we've got the attachments macro, and we've shown people how they can use the attachments macro to share files. And in terms of structuring and organizing content, we also had the standard labels report kind of index page for file lists. So what else can we do for index pages? What's something that we can do that's a bit more innovative there? Let's take a look at the requirements blueprint. Now this helps software teams create and share software requirements and collaborate with each other to build software. So create requirements. What have we got here? We have a how-to dialog. We're trying to show user how they can use the requirements blueprint, what are they supposed to do. Now I land in here, and I want to particularly focus on this page properties macro up the top. This macro here lets you define key attributes of the page that are important, kind of like metadata. So what's important in this use case? Well, we want to know what release are we shipping at, who are the key stakeholders, what's the status of this document, and these are just name value pairs. In a table, the user can add more rows to the table, and will keep adding more attributes to the document. They can delete the rows if they don't want them. And I go ahead and I fill out my rest of my requirements document. But the big thing here is the page properties kind of macro lets me define some properties for my page. I save my page. We've kind of shown user what they can create. We've helped them create it. We've shown them a little table with some attributes for this page. Now on the left here, we've got the index page for all the other requirements in this space. Now I click that, and we've got all the fields that I entered at the top of my page being reported on for my reporting page. Now over some time, you get a long list, and you can customize your columns. So here's one that we do in the Confluence team. These are all the requirements for our Confluence project. And I've selected the columns that I want even. So this is just a macro called the page properties report macro, and I've picked the columns that I want to display in this index page. So what do we see with the requirements blueprint? We saw a really unique index page. In this case, the index page reported on different types of content within the pages in the space. So in this case, we had the page properties at the top. We defined some attributes. We can report on these attributes from anywhere. So that's the requirements blueprint. What are some other examples of some different ways where we can innovate? Well, we're currently working on this blueprint for Jira reporting. We want to make it much easier to report on stuff from Jira inside Confluence. So what do we do here? Create Jira report. Next. Now, we're using the wizard pattern here. We're kind of saying, what type of report do you want to create? Now, in this example, we kind of have a conditional wizard. Depending on what you pick, we'll take you to a different dialog, or we'll perform a different action. In fact, we've kind of built this wizard pluggable for ourselves, so we can keep adding different types of reports. So you may be thinking of a blueprint that you could build internally or externally that could kind of follow this pattern as well. So I select the report that I want to build, a changelog report, and I hit next. And now I'm asked, oh, okay, what kind of things do I want to report on from Jira? And this is dynamically loaded from Jira. I pick my project, I pick my version. Again, so in the file list blueprint, we kind of bootstrapped the idea of applying restrictions to the page. In this case, we know a lot of people that create reports in Confluence want to make them look nice. So one of the things they want to do is create a page layout. So why don't we let them choose the layout before they even get to the page? So we let them pick the layout as well. This goes to Jira, slurps in all the issues that I've picked, and puts them on a page in a different layout by different issue types. So I've got my new features at the top, my bugs on the side, and my other issues as another column. So this is a really kind of snapshot kind of report use case for project managers that want to capture the status of their project at a particular time. It goes and connects to Jira, integrates, gets data, and puts the output of the contents onto the page. Now, if we wanted, some project managers might want to do a dynamic report from Jira. So instead of a snapshot, they want to actually get a live status of the issues. So if you pick a different type of report in the wizard, we could wrap the Jira issues macro, which dynamically reports on Jira issues on our Confluence page, onto the page. So we can have kind of two different types of reports. So you might be thinking about how you can do something similar with your blueprints. What do we see with the Jira report blueprint? Well, we had a multi-step wizard as well that was conditional. But not only that, we also had this concept of an integration pattern. And you might want to think about building a blueprint, either internally to integrate with internal systems that you might be doing for a customer or for your own company, or externally that you might want to share on the marketplace, such as integrate with Dropbox or Google Docs or all these other integration SaaS services out there to do something quite similar. And with the Jira report blueprint, we also landed you inside the editor, and we have a basic standard index page as well. What about in terms of controlling the flow? I've given you an example of how you can land in view page and how you can land in edit page. What about another unique way of controlling the flow? To give you an example here, I want to take you through team calendars, a calendaring solution for Confluence that helps teams plan their leave and travel and all that kind of stuff. So I go create, what do I select? A calendar, and I hit next. We use the wizard pattern. We're kind of saying, what kind of calendar do you want to create? I hit next. Now, this is a fairly unique index page. In fact, this blueprint doesn't have a template. It's loaded a custom view that I've built. And I'll point a couple of things out. So you'll notice up here, we've got a calendars web item that's at the top. This is not a space shortcut. It's actually a dedicated page. It's a dedicated view. It's not an editable page. So we have a web item at the top that you might want to use for index-like pages that are non-editable. So we have pages, blogs, calendars. These things are non-editable. And we have a dedicated view that shows you all the calendars in this space, and you can add more calendars. Now you want to be a little bit careful with these kinds of index pages because they're non-editable. Chances are you're going to get a feature request from a customer that says, I want to just add this sentence to explain this calendar, or I want to put this panel on the right to do something. So be very careful about the non-editable index pages that you choose. Or you might want to build an add-on that's flexible enough that can do both. So in this case, we have a non-editable index page, but there's also a calendar macro that lets you embed a calendar on any page as well. So what do we see with team calendars? Well, we saw this unique index page of having a custom view that's available there all the time. This blueprint did not have a template at all. What about a last example? So I want to give you an example of a more innovative index page, a gallery blueprint. So I go create, I go next. I want to pick a gallery. Okay, cool. Pretty easy. We have a wizard pattern. This wizard, I can drag and drop a whole bunch of files onto my dialog and upload some photos I want to share with my team, give it some descriptions. Now, because we kind of want to reuse this concept inside the editor as well, there's some things we might want to think about. So for example, I'm writing a requirements document, and in that document, I may have a gallery in there. So here are all the mock-ups for this spec kind of concept, right? But on the same token, I may also want to create a page where the whole page is a gallery. I just want to share all the images for a particular project that we're working on. So if I'm a smart plugin developer, I can use this same dialog inside my edit mode. So I go insert macro, and I pick the gallery macro. I get this dialog. And in the same token, we can do what we did just here, which is go create, gallery, hit next, and we use the same dialog. All we got to do is make sure the dialog is a bit aware of my context. Am I in the edit mode, or am I in create mode, and display something a little bit different each time? So you may want to think about how you can, if your add-on already has a macro, you may want to think about how you can reuse that macro, both in the edit and the create page wizard, as well as inside the editor as well. So fill out the details, and this is the big unique thing about this blueprint, the galleries blueprint, is that it has a visual index page. It's kind of like a Flickr-like experience that shows you all the galleries that are in this space, and you can go ahead and add more galleries. So what do we see with the gallery macro? Well, we had the great example of a unique visual index page. So I hope I've shown you here the many different patterns that you can do to create blueprints, and I hope I've shown you how templates are just one of many components of a blueprint. Now, when you're thinking about building blueprints, either turning your existing add-on or wrapping a blueprint around that, or creating a new add-on, don't feel constrained by this nice little 3x3 grid layout that I've created. Go crazy. So you don't have to stick specifically to the top row and the second row. Mix and match. There's nothing stopping you from kind of using a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Heck, you may want to even think about using other plugin modules inside Confluence to create a cohesive create experience for your add-on. So don't feel restricted by just what's available here. But I hope this gives you some basic patterns that we're kind of trying to establish. And Dave will show you how we've made these patterns kind of really easy to create out of the box with the Blueprints plugin modules. So that's Confluence Blueprints. I just wanted to pause for a moment to say a big thank you to these guys here that actually helped us build Confluence Blueprints by giving us a lot of feedback on our APIs. So thank you very much to you guys. And we're able to launch Blueprints in the marketplace with 6 different add-ons available that are in the Blueprints category. So we have a new category in the marketplace for Confluence Blueprints. So huge kudos and thank you to those guys for helping us out doing this. I know a lot of you guys are here, and just wanted to say thanks for that. Now, I'm also saying thanks for that because we need your help again, because we're working on another feature that's coming up called Confluence Space Blueprints. And actually, at the last Atlas camp, I grabbed maybe 10 of you into a room, and we whiteboarded this concept of blueprints. And we're kind of saying, hey, we're thinking about building this thing, and you guys gave us a whole lot of feedback about things that worked and things that didn't work. And one of the immediate bits of feedback I remember I got, I think it was from the Adaptivist guys, I can't remember who told us that exactly, was, wow, we love the concept of blueprints, but can we think about the same concept at a space level? So how do we show people different types of spaces they can create, and how do we help them create these different types of spaces? So Confluence Space Blueprints is coming very soon. What would it look like? Something like this: create space. What kind of space would you like to create? Here are the different types of spaces that we have available. And we could even have your add-on available right here. So maybe your add-on already is a kind of space, or maybe you're thinking about, you know, the add-on I have actually has lots of different types of content that I can group together in a particular space type. Well, you might want to consider using Space Blueprints. So this is a call out to you guys to say we need you. We need your help to give us feedback for Space Blueprints. We're trying to launch Space Blueprints by Summit, so October 1. And would love to, if you're thinking about an add-on that you could build for this, or you have an add-on that you could extend to use Space Blueprints, come and see me after this talk or any time today. I'd love to collect your name and show you our API once we have something available. Hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have something to share and get your feedback. And in return, we'd love to pimp your add-on at Summit in front of a couple of thousand customers and show them all the awesome Space Blueprints that the ecosystem has created. So a huge opportunity for you guys, and a huge thank you for those of you that helped us with page blueprints. Just wanted to say massive thanks for that. All right, really quickly, everyone always says, what changes are coming up? Is my plugin going to break? What are some big changes I need to be aware of? Some things I wanted to share with you. Confluence 5.2 finally has rename user. So a lot of people excited about that. I think Jira 6 just shipped with it. Is that right? Yep, Jira 6 just shipped with it. So we're kind of, we started before them, but we'll get there. We've also got a whole bunch of new blueprints that are coming out, so stay tuned for that. A big one for you guys that you may be interested in, we've upgraded Lucene. We're now running Lucene 4, and we have a team that's been working on search for the last couple of, almost last couple of months, that I'm improving the search algorithm with Confluence. Some much needed love there, so they've made a whole bunch of search improvements there to Confluence, which may impact you. Confluence 5.3, which will be due around the Summit timeframe. We've got, again, more blueprints that we want to be shipping. We'll introduce Space Blueprints, and we're also going to be looking at improving a lot of the Jira integration between Confluence and Jira, and how you create and how you report on content from Jira within Confluence. So with that, just a massive thank you from the Confluence team. We always get really excited when we see new add-ons in the marketplace that's built on top of Confluence, and we blog about them internally, and we comment and we share about it, and we all get excited from that. So a huge thank you to you guys. We love watching what you're producing in the marketplace. Get pretty pumped about that. This is, every year I kind of have a Confluence team photo, and like, this is getting so small because the team's getting so big, you can barely see half the people there. Just a couple of things, don't forget, blueprints. Try them out. Dave Taylor will get up just after this and show you how you can quickly get started. And don't forget about Space Blueprints. Come grab me, give me your contact details. We could go to the room out at the back and brainstorm some different techniques that you could deploy to create different types of spaces. So thanks a lot, guys. We have time for questions if anyone is interested or wants to grab a drink or relax. Questions? Do you want my clicker?
So those space blueprints are intended to effectively replace the themes?
So the question is Space Blueprints effectively going to replace themes? No, we see themes being kind of one of the pillars of Space Blueprints. So you go create space, we say what kind of space do you want to create? We'll give you a wizard that you can create yourself. But when you create a Space Blueprint, it could have a whole bunch of things. It could have a predefined homepage, which users can customize. It could have an out-of-the-box hierarchy. It could have a different theme, so a theme is kind of one of the many components of a space blueprint. It could bootstrap some space settings that you know people always do for this type of space. For example, for documentation spaces, we know the tree is really important, so we're going to have a theme with the tree on the left, that kind of stuff. So a theme is just one of the kind of pillars, if you may, of a space blueprint. Does that kind of make sense? Yes, correct. So the comment is, but kind of this stuff is kind of possible via the API, which is correct. So what we're trying to do with Space Blueprints is make it really easy for a user to be able to do that as part of the creation process. So at the moment they would have to create a space and then have to know that they can go Space Tools, Space Administration, go to Themes, and then pick a theme. So it's just a huge process for them to actually, we're kind of trying to bootstrap that so they can quickly get to productivity as, you know, as fast as possible. Space level, yes. Yes. Good question. What about the REST API in Confluence, the one that's coming soon? Yeah, we still got a lot of work to do that. With Atlassian Connect, the priority of the REST API has gone from here to about here. So it's definitely coming soon. It's something we want to get started on. I can't give you any dates, but it will happen. It'll happen. That's all I can say. Yes. The question is around what's happening with Space Tools, Space Operations, Space Admin. They're kind of, in Confluence 5 in particular, we've grouped them a bit easy. They're laid on top of each other, is the phrase. So what we're trying to do is just simplify the idea of, I want to do something to this space. So we created a top-level thing of what are the tools in the space. Now, if an admin has admin access, they'll see the space admin features. If they don't have admin access, they'll see the normal features. So we kind of tried to simplify that. It sounds like you may not think that's a simplification. Right. I'd love to talk to you about it, actually, afterwards and get some feedback around that. Anything else? One more question? Do you have time for? Yep. Stefan, no? When are we integrating the documentation theme with the standard theme? We probably won't be doing that anytime soon. What we will do soon, hopefully next release, is take the key features out of the doc theme. The doc theme will remain, and recreate them in the new sidebar on the default theme. So what will happen is that sidebar on the left there will kind of have two modes. One mode that's really focused on an unorganized space where there's pages everywhere, but you may go create a page here and you've got a little bit of organization below that page and you know what that structure is, so that's very focused on around it, maybe a team space. And the other mode will be very focused around documentation. So it'll have the tree in the sidebar and you can hopefully reorder in that sidebar or whatever. The doc theme will remain for quite some time. When we do migrate the two, if we do migrate the two, we'll make sure there's a migration path. I know there's a whole bunch of features in the doc theme that will need to be carried across, which currently don't exist in the default theme. Cool. One more question, yes? Search improvements, what exactly are we expecting? I probably couldn't go into too much detail for you immediately, but I can get you some more details. But in summary, Lucine's had an upgrade. We've had a visual refresh of the search screen, and they've been spending a lot of time trying to tweak the way we do our weightings on different aspects of the page, whether or not you've seen the page recently. There's someone in your network work on that page. So trying to work out how we can make the search rankings a bit more smarter based on the data that we already have inside Confluence. The Lucene upgrade will be in Confluence 5.2, which hasn't shipped yet. Yep, so Lucene 4. Cool. Thanks a lot, guys.